Welcome to Season 4 of She Ventures. I am your host, Doria Lavanino. She Ventures is a podcast about women who are pivoting in their lives and careers. We live in a world where women of color founders raise 0.5% of all venture capital in 2020, and women overall a paltry 2.2%. This podcast is about elevating women's voices. Our new website, sheventurespodcast.com, provides resources, actionable tips, mentorship, and community. We do not subscribe to the idea that there is a dearth of fundable ideas from women. There is no pipeline problem. There may be a visibility problem, and that is what we are here to fix together. Let's talk about the reality of women, money, entrepreneurship, and work-life balance on this season of She Ventures. Women of color raised 0.43%. That's less than 0.5% of venture capital in 2020. These two Kansas-born and raised sisters from Ugandan immigrant parents successfully closed a $1.41 million venture capital round for their career discovery and hiring app, QuickHire, despite the odds, making them the first women of color in Kansas to raise $1 million or more. And they are here to tell us about their pivot to entrepreneurship, how they got where they are today as CEO and COO of QuickHire. Angela Muhwezi-Hall and Deborah Gladney, welcome to She Ventures.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much for having us.
When I saw the article about you, I think it was in The Guardian, I hunted you down. I decided I'm going to do anything I can to get these women on my show. So thank you. Before we dive in, I wanted to touch on your childhood briefly. Your parents were Ugandan immigrants, and you had, if I understand right, 5 siblings.
That's right.
What was it like growing up in a small town in the Midwest?
First and foremost, it was definitely different because there was a huge learning curve for our parents who weren't raised in this country. So even just from just little nuances of like little sayings or norms, like things like sleepovers, just wasn't a thing in our household. Our parents did not understand. They would always be like, why do you want to sleep in somebody else's house? You have a bed here. Or just different things that we joke a lot about how we would call, like, we called the trunk the boot. and, and we didn't know that other kids called it the trunk until, we were using it in class and they're like, the boot, what is that? So it's just different things like that I think made it very obvious that we just had a different upbringing. But I think that a lot of our tenacity as entrepreneurs came from our upbringing, really, because we saw our parents work really, really hard. They were so appreciative of the opportunity that this country afforded. And every day they just woke up with a mindset of just not having excuses. Both of them were in school and they had kids. They were literally trading kids at bus stops. Like they would take the city bus and they would pass me off to my dad and things like that. And they just hustled and made it work. And that was super inspiring for us.
Angela, do you have anything to add?
I think that, when you're growing up and your parents are not from America, and you're growing up in a small town, we had to lean on each other in order to just keep our cultures alive and our traditions alive. Our sense of family is really tight. That even goes into Deborah and I, we're very, very close, but that's just how we were raised. Like if you want to do something, you have a built-in best friend, you have a built-in coworker, you have a built-in person to get the job done, whether it's working on chores or it's going down the line of building a company. So I think that sense of family and just really relying on each other was embedded in us early on.
I'm hearing community, family, hustle, all things that make perfect sense as to why you became entrepreneurs. But before that, Angela, you were working in education in Los Angeles for about 5 years, right? And Deborah, your focus was more editorial PR, relationship management.
Yep.
Pre-QuickHire, what did each of you think you wanted to do professionally?
It's a very good question because I feel like I was still somewhat finding myself professionally. I think both Angela and I, it's very interesting that we somehow fell on this path because for the most part, we had similar interests. Like both of us were really interested in music. Both of us were kind of pursuing that in just different ways. So that was one thing for me that I was like, well, maybe I will do something there. Obviously, doing the PR route, I knew that I really enjoyed relationship building and things like that. But I ended up doing my own PR consulting right before we ended up doing QuickHire. And I knew that I was on the right track as far as like, I really liked the idea of building my own thing where I had kind of the keys to everything that I was rewarded based on how I did versus based on how a company performed or how my manager felt about me. It was all based on, okay, if I hustle and I kill it for my clients, I'm rewarded and that's it. There's no gray area. I really, really enjoyed that aspect of it. And I really never thought that I would end up in entrepreneurship, but doing my own PR consulting made me realize that there's something with entrepreneurship that I think that could be really a good fit for me.
It's so much agency, right, over yourself, like you
Exactly.
said, the hustle. Yeah, Angela.
As Deborah said, both of us are really into music. And so, when I graduated college, I got the opportunity to work for Volunteers of America in Los Angeles. And I was like, I'm moving to LA. I'm going to sing and I'm going to work for this nonprofit and, live my life. But that nonprofit absolutely changed the way I saw life. I worked in South Central high schools as their college and career counselor, and specifically in schools that didn't have counselors. A lot of these schools were severely underfunded, but there was so much talent that were in these schools. And one thing about growing up in Wichita, Kansas, we went to public schools all of our lives, but I've never seen underfunded schools the way that it was there. And so it just opened my eyes to really just how unfair the systems can be based on where you were born. I really saw myself just kind of, how can I bridge the gap and make sure that people are getting equal opportunity no matter where they are? The idea for QuickHire actually came while I was working in those schools.
That was my next question. So I've teed you up, please.
Yeah. So, when I was working in those schools, we were focusing on those college going students. So we were really trying to find the individuals that had the opportunity to go to college and really groom them, mentor them. But if you were not on that track to going to higher education, there really weren't any tools for you. Some people would drop out and it would be like, good luck to you. Or they weren't going to community college or whatever it may be. There weren't any resources for them. Some of these individuals were the most talented, smartest individuals I've ever met, but somewhere the system had failed them. We were essentially just giving up on them and not giving them any resources. And so I had experiences like that. And then one in particular, there was a student who came to my office and she had all of these paper applications. She was trying to find a local grocery store opportunity, retail opportunity, and she didn't have a computer on her own. The school that I was at, they didn't have proper computer labs. And so she needed to borrow my computer to continue her job search. And so it struck me in that moment that while it's been so long since I've worked in those areas, since Deborah's worked in those areas, since our parents worked in those areas, the way of getting a service job is pretty much the same. They may give you a paper application, or they may send you to several different websites to complete that application. I was thinking, wow, it's been all this time. And if you're in the white collar industry, there's so many tools and resources for you. But if you are in the service industry, skilled trade, there really aren't any tools for you. And also, the school systems aren't helping you out either. If you are going into the real world, how can we not just connect people to jobs, but also make sure that the talent that is going into the world is getting the proper tools that they need to advance in these areas?
I love that. And I also want to echo, I only lived in the Midwest for a year, but it was the best education I got in elementary school. And I think a lot of Americans who live on either coast don't realize how robust the education system is in many states in the Midwest. Because I live in New York City now, and a lot of what you're saying really resonates with me, that there's oftentimes a lack of path. I think there's a little bit more recognition of it now, but still definitely hurdles. You've described how QuickHire came about, the idea. So then what happened? So how did you approach your sister, and how did that work?
Yeah, absolutely. So I approached my sister for years. This was actually on a 2017 vision board. I was like, I have to do something with this idea, but I did not know where to start. And Deborah is such a doer. Like she was saying, like she was creating her own opportunities, her own companies. She was working with startups and getting them off the ground. I knew that I was like, Deborah, we have to do this together. So I would always just bring this idea to her anytime that we had a family function, or just drop it occasionally, periodically. Hey, remember, there's this app that we've really got to work on. And she'd always be like, you should do it.
Right. I'd be like, no, yeah, do it, girl, go.
Yeah. But when COVID hit, I think it was April or March of 2020, and we saw all what was happening with our economy, Deborah gave me a call at 4 a.m. saying, hey, you remember that app you were talking about? Now is the time. We got to do it. And so definitely COVID was the catalyst to get things going.
It's amazing that, Deborah, that you were able to see it as an opportunity at that point, right? Which it was. How did you find out about TechStars?
Yeah, it was such a journey for us because, as Angie was saying, we really didn't know what to do. We knew it was a great idea. We saw so many shifts happening in the labor market. I always knew it was a great idea. The big thing was just timing, because we knew that there were a number of players. And in order for us to really infiltrate the market, it would just be about the right window of opportunity. When we saw all those shifts happening, it was like, okay, now's the time to do it. But now what the heck do we do? Like, neither one of us have a tech background. Neither one of us have huge access to capital. We really didn't know what to do. So we're like, okay, let's put together a PowerPoint. And then from there, luckily, as Angie was saying, we both spent time building networks. We have both had almost a decade of work experience post college. And so we both had relationships that we built over time. And some of those relationships that Angie built out in LA, a few of them had built, some tech startups before. So we started asking people for advice, figuring out what they did, some of their learnings. And that was probably the biggest time and money saver, because we were able to learn a lot before even spending a dollar, so that when we were ready to spend a dollar, we knew where to put that money. And as far as like getting a developer or what have you, and really kind of knowing what to look for. But as we continue to network with our existing relationships, one of the guys I went to college with, he is in tech, and he helped with some of the TechStars startup weekends. And that was his first piece of advice. He was like, hey, you should really look into accelerators, because I think that will help you guys. And so that's how we started to do some of the research and looked into TechStars, and we realized that it could be a really good fit for our business.
It's an incredibly competitive program. What were some of the learnings that your network gave you, or why do you believe that your idea stood out?
To be candid with you, we applied to TechStars multiple times. That was the biggest learning, is that for a lot of people who get into these programs, they apply multiple times. You may not get in on that first time. When we look back at it, we're so grateful we actually didn't get in the first time, because we really were very impressionable. We were very much trying to kind of prove ourselves, if you will. The second time that so when we did get in, I think that we got in because we were so dang confident about what the heck we were building. And I think that that confidence was contagious in a way, because really these accelerators, these investors, especially early stage, they're betting on the founders. They're betting on the team. They know that the product is going to change. The product probably hasn't even really been developed, really. So they have nothing else to go off of besides, can these two people do it? Really, I think that that's why we got in, is because we were convinced that we were heading down a path that was going to help change people's lives. And we were so convinced, and it was like, you can either join us on this journey or not. Regardless, we're going to get there. So
We're
it's up
going to
to
do
you.
it. Yeah. And the tenacity I
Yeah.
love, because so many people get rejected and then say, oh, it's obviously not a good idea or not meant to be or blah, blah, blah. Do you have anything to add, Angela?
I really think that one thing about just in our childhood is that we had to make sure without a shadow of a doubt that we are putting our best foot forward and giving people no reason to doubt us. I think that going into this tech world where there's not a lot of people who look like us, where we don't have the traditional background of Ivy League schooling or whatever the case may be, we really had to, like Deborah said, 100% make people believe what we were doing and believe in ourselves and have traction already, show that the need is there. So even before we spent a dime on QuickHire building the app, we did so much research. We spoke to so many small business owners. We spoke to so many people who worked in the service industry and skilled trade, did a lot of different just questionnaires and things like that, just to really make sure that we knew what people needed and created exactly what they needed. And so even when we first came up with the idea, it was specifically, how can we just get people jobs? Like, how can we work with jobs and get them moving? But the more research we did, the more that we talked to people, the more that we found that gap, we realized that it was an issue with people advancing in their careers. Talking about impressionable, if we would have done it the first time that we applied, who knows what QuickHire would look like. But because when we did get in, we were like, no, we're not just a job board. We are a career discovery app. And this is why it's needed, specifically in the service industry and being, a Midwest team. Like, we were so deep in it. And by that time, we had users, we had people that were, utilizing the product and things like that. So we just had to give no one reason to doubt us at all.
And what you're saying is so important about field research, because I think oftentimes entrepreneurs have an idea, but they don't validate it, and they base their whole pitch deck on it. And they may look at outside statistics or whatnot, but they aren't talking to real people. And it's almost as if in doing that, you not only build a case for your product, but you're increasing your confidence in it.
Absolutely. It was, for us, we were like, if we are giving people what they need, there's no way that we're going to fail. We were just so in tune to that. Even if investors doubted us, if other people doubted us, it's like, that's fine. They're not our customers. As long as the customers, if we are giving them a product that they need, everything else is going to fall in place. And we just really believe in that. And that's really what we're going off of and abiding by, even in this stage of our business. It's like, we've got to stay in tune with the customer and making sure that we're giving them a product that they need.
And your customer is twofold, right? It's the job seeker and the companies that are hiring them.
It definitely is. But we do say that we are a job seeker driven platform. And the reason why we are that way, we're really focused. We do believe that the people on our platform are the product. the better people are, the more they are set up for success, the more engaged they are, the better talent they will be for employers. So that is why we're really trying to build a career discovery platform that's really focused on the job seeker and empowering the job seeker to take hold of their career, to go after what it is that they want to do. Because we do believe that, again, if we are able to get people empowered and feeling excited to go to work every day, that's only going to produce better results and talent for our employers.
Going back just a second to TechStars, for listeners who are interested in applying, from the point, I know you were accepted in July of 2021. Then after that, I'm curious, what does that process look like?
It's about a 12-week program. It is kind of like, I don't know, business school meets boot camp,
Yeah.
meets therapy, meets everything all in one. You really have to buckle down. And I really think that the companies that are the most successful after an accelerator are the ones that really took advantage of all the accelerator had to offer.
Such as?
Such as the different workshops that they put on, the network that they provide, as in like really networking with other startups within the TechStars community or the investors that are connected to the community. Really just taking the time to focus in on what they're presenting to you. Like we always heard, we had different founder stories that we were able to listen to and learn from. We had former CEOs and builders coming in. You can sit there and passively listen and just check the box, or you can engage, ask questions, get advice, and really the people that really engage and take advantage of that, I think are the most successful coming out of the program.
Makes sense. Do you want to add anything to that, Angela?
No, just there are several different TechStars programs around the world. Definitely you want to apply to one that fits your business, and also take a look at who the MD is, who the director is for that specific location, and what you think you can gain from them. Our MD, her name was Curdy. She was fantastic. Oh my goodness. I cannot sing her praises enough. Just the way her mentoring style, what she brought to the table as far as her life experience, the mentors that she brought us, the workshops that she brought us, just how big of a resource she was. We were in the middle of the interview process and we were dealing with a potential client. And instead of going through the rigor of interview questions, she was like, all right, how are we going to approach this client? She was already mentoring us, even though we weren't even in the program yet. And so TechStars was just an amazing experience for us. But if anybody out there is interested, take a look at those MDs and the different locations and what they offer and see what connects with you most.
Let's talk briefly about your business model. So it's for workers, as you mentioned. It's a career discovery platform. It's free for people who are working. And then I believe it's a tiered pricing structure for business. Is that right?
Yep, you're absolutely right. So our companies can subscribe to our platform on a recurring monthly basis. We just, like you said, we have different tiers based on, company size or hiring needs or just different things. It's all outlined on our website at getquickhire.com. We do have plans that support bigger enterprises, multi-unit locations and things like that. And so we're able to customize based on their need.
Do you want to stay in the Midwest or do you envision expanding?
Our goal is to start in the Midwest, but we definitely see this as a solution that can be helpful to businesses across the country. And we definitely don't think it's too early to plant those seeds because we're really trying to just help people. We've been through the ringer as a country for the last several years. We just really want to be able to get people not just back to work, but to meaningful work and meaningful careers. So again, this is a solution that we see being helpful across the country. Obviously, with us being headquartered in the Midwest, roots in the Midwest. We also think it's an overlooked geographic region, as we were talking about earlier. That's why we chose to really start here. But again, we're just trying to help as many people as possible.
I'm sure you got this question 100,000 times. How are you different than LinkedIn?
Yeah, no, we get it all the time. And again, we knew it came with the territory, which is why the timing of us launching QuickHire was so important, because it's a relatively noisy market. And to Angela's point earlier, there are so many solutions and great solutions that are catered to the desk white collar worker, like a LinkedIn. There's so many great platforms like that out there. For us, first and foremost, is that we are for the non-traditional education path worker, first and foremost. So it's okay if you didn't go to college. It's okay if you learned skills on the job, or if you went to trade or vocational school. Like, those are the type of people that we're really, really trying to serve here. So that's the first differentiator.
A huge differentiator.
Yeah. So that's the biggest thing. And then secondly, as Andrew was saying, we are a career discovery platform. And what that means is that we don't want to only help people find the right job, but after they found the right job, we want to help them continue to progress. And that is really our long-term vision. And even now, in a time where we are seeing such a huge talent shortage and all of that, it's really because this goes way beyond the pandemic. People in this industry have faced decades of neglect, with its career stifling, unfair pay, so many different things that are related to just not creating pathways for people in non-traditional education path type of careers. For us, we're saying, hey, now that you have found right hires, after we've helped you find the right people, what are you doing to retain? What are you doing? Because the average for service industry workers, the average retention is 2 months.
Such high churn.
It is such high churn. And so for us, that's again another huge differentiator with us.
Are you envisioning working with companies to help them, like in a consultative way, or how does one change that?
There's a number of different things that we're working on, but again, being more of like being people driven, what we've really tried to hone in on is what the job seeker really, really wants to do. So they're able to input their goals, they're able to track different trainings or career development things that they are doing. And employers have an insight, first and foremost, into what it is that their people actually want to do. Just starting there is a huge thing. Angela has given so many different examples of folks that she knows who work in restaurants or work in the service industry or work in skilled trade type of industries. And a lot of them don't even know how to express interest in management roles or wanting to be a franchisee, because there's really there's no platform for them to do that. There's no succession planning in restaurants. You do that in the corporate world, you do that in offices, but for the frontline customer service worker, we're basically sending this message of, this is it for you. But we all know that those are the type of workers that do make the best franchisees. They make the best GMs. They make the best district managers. The best CEOs are the people that know what it takes to make the product, to please the customer, all of that. So for us, it's about bridging that gap and creating that insight.
I'm curious, you're both co-founders. How did you decide who would be CEO and who'd be COO? Just lighten things up a bit.
That was a lot of back and forth. Deborah is the CEO, but it was probably a little bit by force.
Exactly. I'm glad she told the truth. She told the truth. It was more so like, you're the CEO, be quiet, walk in your purpose. And that was
But I say that because when I look up CEO in the dictionary, I'm telling you, I see her face there. In all seriousness, Deborah has always just been such a doer, a person of, we can figure out how to do this. Even when we didn't know where to start, I wasn't sure what we should be looking into. She was like, all right, let's get a presentation. Let's put a PowerPoint together. Let's pull all of our resources together. Let's talk to our community. Who in our networks do we know that we can pick their brain? I heard about some accelerator programs, like maybe we should be doing something like that. I heard that there are these VCs that you can pitch to. And so I'm just going to email all the VCs I can find. I mean, it was like wild. Deborah was literally having a baby. Like she had a baby in April and was still sending out emails from the hospital to VCs, looking at wireframes.
Are you serious?
Like, it was insane. Like, I was like, Deborah, just it's okay. Like we can get to it when you're home. But she just has this presence and this tenacity about her, as far as like, if we see something, we're going to get it done. I don't know how we're going to get it done, but we're going to put our heads together and I'm going to figure out how to make that first step. And sometimes it's just knowing how to make the first step that makes a world of difference. Because even for me, I mean, this was on my vision board of 2017. I had it all pictured out. I, drew it out, everything. But taking that first step can be so daunting that people will get stuck in just that idea mode. So sometimes just, when we're talking about CEO and COO and things like that, I just think that Deborah just had just such a way of accelerating our business that it was just clear as day that she needs to be CEO. So here we are.
I love it. If you guys have disagreements, which you must, how do you resolve them?
As Angie was saying, we have been really close all of our lives. We've gone through a lot personally too. And we've disagreed all our lives. We have fought and we have done all of these things though, and we've come out on the other side of it. And so for us, we disagree, but I don't know. I feel like we just disagree with like love and respect, because at the end of the day, like QuickHire aside, I care and love my sister more than anything. And I would never want anything like QuickHire or anything to get in between that. I think that that's the approach that we always take, is even if Angie says something that she disagrees with or she doesn't understand why I'm doing something, I always take it as she just doesn't understand. Let me explain. But I never take it as like my sister doesn't care or she's mad, or like it's just, that's not even a factor with us, because I know how much my sister cares about me. I know how much she has my back, and she's had my back for 34 years. So this whole thing, to me, I think it's so easy working with her in this capacity because of the level of trust and respect we have for each other.
I love the trust factor, which you're so right. It depends on how you ask the question. And I could see VCs asking it a lot. So getting to raising capital, Project Diane is still crunching the numbers for 2021. But in 2020, women of color raised $715 million, which sounds like a lot of money until you realize that it was out of $166 billion raised and ends up being less than 0.5%. What was your experience as women of color raising capital?
To start off, as Angie was saying, it was just even the awareness of it, because we didn't know anything about venture capital or any of that stuff going into this. So just knowing where to start or who to contact was the first barrier, because a lot of venture firms don't put their contact information on websites. They have information on there that's kind of ambiguous. So you don't really know if you fall in those. They'll say like, oh, we invest from day zero, so you can't be too early. But yet a lot of them, you are too early. They're like, no, I want to see some revenue. And so there's a lot of things that it's just such a learning curve, even just the access and understanding from the beginning. A lot of the first early days, as Angie was saying, of me emailing investors, a lot of that was just learning. We got not much from it, but it was more so like me understanding what works, what doesn't work, what is this language, what is pre-seed, seed, series, what is this? A lot of that was just learning for me. By the time we got to TechStars and all of that, and again, like an accelerator really helps, especially when it comes to raising money because you learn a lot about raising funds during an accelerator. I think all of that research just prepared us to move faster during TechStars. There still were a ton of barriers, again, because I think people are just not used to seeing two Black women building a hiring marketplace. That is just not, that's not what you see. People are used to seeing people like us create awesome companies, related to diversity. And there's some really, really great ones out there. The diversity, inclusion, or even, some product led type of like Shay stuff, like, a lot of those type of businesses, and they have led the way in those areas, which is awesome. But with specifically a hiring solution like ours, they're not used to it. So I think some of that, we met some kind of resistance because of that.
How did that take shape? Was it a sense that you had that it was resistance, or?
It was definitely a sense because, as Angel was saying, we really try to build this business in a way to where there wouldn't be an excuse for why you shouldn't invest, because we're going way above and beyond. Even with our valuation, we're giving you quite the discount
Right.
but we're not going to give them a reason. We're not going to have any barriers. So it's like, we've got revenue, we've got crazy traction, we've got all of these things, like check, 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 check. And you're still hesitant because of what? And we hate going to there, obviously we don't like going to that conclusion, but you can't help but ask, well, then what is it? Again, like, no one's going to ever admit blatantly, but we know it's there.
And even sometimes what people would be like, oh, okay, QuickHire. So I'm just assuming it can help with like D&I and diversity and inclusion and, getting more Black and brown people in the door. And it's like, actually, it's for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So making sure that people aren't just putting us in a box was a big thing. And also people understanding what we have access to. I tell the story a lot is when we were initially trying to just find some investors for just $250,000 is what we were trying to put together. And someone said, oh, at that point, you should just really go to your family and friends. Like, that's like a family and friends round. And I'm like, you are so disconnected from.
Yeah.
Like, what family, what friends?
Right.
Okay, first of all, like, I don't know if any of my family and friends have that. And then if they did, I'm surely they're not going to give it to me. But just, that they're just so far removed from what my reality would be. And they think that that's sound advice, but it really makes the process even more daunting. That's like, oh my gosh, Deborah, they're telling us that we have to go to our family. What are we going to do? So just, some people just don't have an understanding of our experience in coming into this VC world, which was definitely a challenge.
I can imagine. And so your round ended up being oversubscribed. Were there any, how do I ask this question? Were there any people that you turned away that you didn't feel were a right fit?
There were a few. There were. I think part of it was, once we got to the point of being oversubscribed, luckily we were in a position where we had to look at things like dilution and all different types of things. That was a big factor for us. And then there were a few. It's like it wasn't a good fit, and a lot of it was like personality, or I could just tell as we were talking to them how they were basically trying to tell us what to do and trying to brand QuickHire. Like, it needs to be this, and you need to do this. And as long as you're coachable and all these things. And I am a coachable person. I know I am. And it's not like I'm definitely looking for partners, but they were very like forceful with it. Luckily, we're at a position where we could weed those ones out. We look back at it and we knew we made the right decision. And we're so freaking stoked with the syndicate that came together, because we knew that like things were not always going to be perfect with our business. And we needed to find people who truly believed in us and truly believed in our vision, because entrepreneurship, it's up and down. It's up and down. There will be months where our revenues stink. There will be months where we've been pretty flat, or like we got something wrong, or we made a bad hire. And we just really, really wanted to find people that believed in us first and foremost, and that were really, truly down for the journey.
That was going to be my next question. One must do and one must not do. If you had advice for women of color specifically in raising capital, what would, I think you've said the do. Do you have a do not, like something you shouldn't do?
Oh my goodness.
Good question.
Oh my gosh. There's so many things that are kind of circling in my mind. The reason why I paused is because I was going to say, do not sell yourself short. Do not like cheapen yourself too much. Like I said, we did kind of we knew we were giving a great valuation, but we also knew that there was a cutoff point too. Like we weren't going to go way too low because we knew what we brought to the table. I also would say that like, do not solely rely on investors. Do not think that that is the end all be all, because Angela and I, we were on the fence on whether we should raise or not. And I was starting to doubt myself. And Angie was like, okay, go out there, try to raise. If we raise something, great. If not, we're gonna be fine. So like, who cares? Like, and that is the thing, because I think sometimes we over glorify rounds and raising money, but there's so many great businesses that were built without VC dollars early, That I think would be the biggest do not think that your business is going to live or die based on whether you get funds. If you don't get funds, go out there and build. And as Angie was saying, don't give people an excuse for why your business isn't great. And you can build without it. I think that's my biggest thing. I don't know if Angie has anything to add to that.
I would say do not take advice from everybody. You kind of got to pick and choose who you're taking advice from and who you really connect with as mentors. Because even like with the person who gave us the advice of the family and friends round, they don't understand your experience. There are so few Black women that have this experience that could even relate to what you are going through, that a lot of times people are well-meaning and they think that you should be doing X, Y, and Z with your business, but it will completely derail you if you take that advice, especially if you're at an early stage. So I would just say, do not take advice from everyone, especially so soon and so early.
Such an excellent point. Also, because when you're early stage, you're not completely secure in your idea. And so it's easy to be swayed by people that you think might know better than you, but sometimes they do. Oftentimes they do not. You know your business.
And then I would also say, do not let what that stereotypical startup life or founder, what they think that looks like, stop you from going for it. Deborah and I are the complete opposite of what people think a startup founder would look like. We are Black women. We went to state schools. Deborah's a mom of 3. We're in our 30s. We're both married. Like
we don't have tech backgrounds.
Yeah. Like this is our first like business together.
Woo!
Yes.
I'm getting all excited.
Yes, like there are so many things that, makes us different from what the average startup founder looks like. And if you could easily get stuck in that or be intimidated by that. Like, oh, no, I'm in my 30s or I'm too old now or whatever the case may be. But it's like, no, you can go and you can get it. And honestly, our experience in life is what got us this far, whether it's our networks, whether it was being able to pull from our savings to get our first beta together. Like we were able to pull from 401ks or whatever the case may be just to get an MVP going. And so those things that we think may hinder us can actually be the strongest parts of us to get us ahead. So,
yep.
Got to have skin in the game, right?
Yep.
That's some serious skin.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so you've raised 1.4 million. And is there anything you can share about how you plan to deploy it or your traction to date? Anything you want to share in that regard?
Yeah, our biggest thing is really just developing our tech. We have really great ideas and goals and a product roadmap. And so it's really just getting the right team and technology in place to get us there. So a lot of it is investing in the tech, whether it's in the actual product or making the right hires there on the tech front. So that's a huge thing for us in the near term. Also, just really as our product develops, just ramping up our sales also and continue to build more relationships and partnerships with more companies. We know that this is a very unique moment in time from a talent standpoint, and we want to be a resource for companies. That's a big thing on the horizon. We're continuing to see growth on both the job seeker and the company side, which is great. But we want to do more. We want to achieve more. And that's really what we're looking at in 2022 is really achieving more and being able to say, hey, we have created a great playbook on how we can find success in different markets. And so we want to be able to take that playbook and just really just deploy it across the country.
Love it. How do each of you, before we wrap up, define success?
I feel like this is a question that I should have an answer for.
It's a hard one though, right?
Yeah. And it's a great question because honestly, it's something that I have been grappling with a lot because with what we've achieved so far, we've had a lot of opportunities like speaking with you and speaking with others and people asking for us to come share our story. And I have this internal struggle because I feel like, well, I haven't really made it yet. What can people really learn from me? I haven't made it yet. I don't know. I think for me, success is about, I think, being proud of what you've been able to accomplish, knowing that the journey is still, it's okay if the journey is still going. I think a lot of people can still learn from your story thus far, even though we have a ton more that we want to accomplish, it doesn't mean that we're not successful in achieving certain milestones that others haven't been able to achieve before. That is successful. The fact that we are inspiring other Black women to go into technology, that is success. If because of what we've done has helped shed a light on a huge topic of how women and minorities are extremely underfunded, and now people are starting to pay more attention, that is success. So I think that success is, again, just being able to recognize different milestones and pillars and barriers that you've been able to remove based on things that you've done.
Yeah, that's a
that's a hard one to follow up on.
But I think that, what defines success, it's changing for me. When we first started with QuickHire, just getting it in the Apple Store and the Google Play was like, yes.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes.
And then, when we actually got people that are finding jobs on our app.
Oh, that must have been
so
it was cool.
Amazing. I mean, because it was just Deborah and I for so long. And so we would hear all the stories. And of course, it would be Deborah and I and our CTO, Caleb, and we'd hear the stories of people finding work and things like that. And someone would be like, oh, I've had this job that I just got from your platform is the best job that I've had in years, or I haven't worked because of the pandemic. And now, I can put food on the table. I mean, that was just amazing. And really the idea for QuickHire came about with just removing barriers for people that have had so many. And so I think that success to me is that the more easier that we can make it for people just to find opportunities on their phone or, just so quickly, and give them more tools and resources just to have an even playing field is kind of what success is to me. So I think it's going to be continuing to evolve as we evolve. But I'm excited to see what that next level of success looks like for QuickHire.
Me too. I can't wait as well. Where can listeners find out more about QuickHire?
Definitely check us out on our website, which is getquickhire.com. There are ways that you can easily sign up as a job seeker or a company. You can schedule a demo with us if you're a company or a job seeker, and we'd be happy to show you how the platform works. And then Angie can share all the social media stuff.
Oh, yeah. So get QuickHire at everything, Instagram, Facebook, QuickHire on LinkedIn. You can also download the app on Google Play and the Apple Store, QuickHire. Yeah, check us out. We would love to connect with everyone. If you want to send us an email, it's hello@getquickhire.
Yay. And I'm going to put you guys on the spot, but I'd love to have a conversation a year from now. What do you think?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. Thank you so much for joining today.
Thank you so much.
Thank
It was
you.
fun.
You've been listening to She Ventures. Like what you heard? You can find us wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to subscribe and sign up for our newsletter so you never miss a show.